so my other half is somewhere in blue that way. But thank you all for joining us tonight. As most of you know by now, Adam is our inspiration. He is our 29-year-old nonverbal baby brother. He has a passion for swimming, running, road trips, puzzles, parties, and most importantly, hot dogs. But we know that at any moment of any day that interest could change drastically. And that is why it's very important to us to keep him happy as well as everyone else in the room happy, entertained, and equally included. Inclusion is big in our family. That's why the three of us are always all the time together. And as siblings who would do anything for their brother, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our keynote commencement speaker, Amy Ursitti. Amy has raised over $2,600 this year with an inspiring and loving email describing her connection with her brother, Jack. So Amy, please come to the stage.
All right, hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. My name's Amy Ursitti and I'm a freshman at Dover-Sherburne High School. We just finished our first semester of the school year, and for my final project in computer graphic design, we need to make a timeline of our lives, or the life of someone who's related to us. I chose to make my timeline not just about one person, but two people, me and my brother, Jack. Jack is 11 years old and has severe autism. While I was doing this timeline project and finding pictures to use, I realized that we've done some pretty cool things together. We've lived in 3 states, gone swimming at Surfside Beach many times, gone on lots of airplane, train, and boat rides all over the country. Although this might sound really cheesy, Jack's happiness really does make me feel happy. Whenever I'm having a bad day, thinking of Jack's grin with his gigantic front teeth is usually all it takes to make me feel better. We've been through so much together, and I could never imagine what my life would be like without him. I don't know if Jack wants me to pity him or not, but I really do feel bad for him when he's trying to say a word that we can't understand, or when people make fun of him in public. He's so good to me, and I wish all people were as sweet and loving as he is. But the reality is that they're not. There are people who whisper about him right in front of his face. They stare at him. They try to stay as far away from him as possible. I'm not really sure why they do this, but I think it's because he's different. I think we're all a little intimidated by people who aren't like us. A lot of my friends and I have similar interests and personalities. It's like that in most of the other friend groups in my high school. I'll admit that I'm personally uncomfortable around people who aren't like me, but I think that's just because we don't have that much to talk about. People who aren't often around kids with autism might be scared of Jack. I would be too if he wasn't my brother, so I understand. On the other hand, just because you're afraid of someone doesn't give you an excuse to be mean to them. In a perfect world, everyone would get along and be nice to each other. That's not the way it works, though. I think Jack deals with mean people very well, though. He seems to believe in himself, and I admire him for his confidence. He's not afraid to be silly in front of other people and is always true to himself. The good thing is that Jack has so many wonderful people in his life. He has adoring parents, supportive relatives, and dedicated teachers. My friends are also all so nice to him. They're honestly the best people in the world. He especially loves one of my close friends. She came to my house to drop something off recently when I wasn't there, and my mom said that Jack ran to the door so he could see her. She's always so nice to Jack and treats him like the real person that he is. That makes me so happy. I'm not kidding when I say I won't be friends with someone if they don't treat my brother, or even just people with autism in general, with respect. Something I really care about is helping the many struggling people out there who are on the autism spectrum. It's also really hard to know what Jack thinks. It's hard to know what anyone thinks. We finished the Odyssey in my English class about a month and a half ago. And one of the things we talked a lot about in class while we were reading the last few books was how you can tell what someone's thinking. A lot of people in my class said that you can tell by their facial expression or their actions. I don't think that they're necessarily wrong, but I completely disagree because of the kind of environment that I've grown up in. For example, when Jack is sick, he still runs all over the house and jumps up and down. You'd think that he wasn't sick because of his actions, but he is. Jack has taught me that you can't assume what someone is thinking if they don't say it themselves, because you could be completely wrong. It's also disrespectful to try to speak for someone, especially a person with autism. I'm not Jack. I can think that I know what he thinks, but I don't. He's his own person, so I shouldn't try to speak for him. Being a high school student, I hear people talking about true love all the time. What is true love? Where do you find it? How will you know when you found it? I've noticed that this is something that other kids my age worry about and obsess over, but I don't have to do that. I have my brother. He's my true love. He always has been. Since I have him, I know that true love isn't something that I've had to fight for. It just came naturally. My parents always tell me that they weren't expecting me to love my brother immediately like I did. I guess it's a good thing that I don't really remember my terrible threes, as my mom calls them, but I do have one good memory of that year, and that was the day that I met Jack. I remember thinking, I'm meeting my baby brother for the first time. What should I wear? And grabbing my favorite sweater out of my closet. I don't remember much more about that day, but my parents tell me that I came in and held out my arms, saying that I wanted to hold him. He had a hole in his heart, so he and my mom had to stay in the hospital for a while. When I learned this, I said, "We can't leave him. He's special." My parents thought that I'd be jealous of all the attention he was getting, but I never was. I love him. He loves me. He can't say it, but I know that he does when he smiles at me, or laughs at one of my jokes, or comes up to my room to hang out with me while I'm doing my homework. We're siblings, so of course we get annoyed at each other occasionally, but we can never stay mad at each other for a long time. I will always have him, and he will always have me, and that's how I know he's my true love. One of the best things that I've witnessed in the autism community is people who love someone with autism and do things to help them. Without this unconditional love, there would be no Autism Speaks. Bob and Suzanne Wright love someone with autism. My mom loves someone with autism, and she's gotten so many laws passed in different states to help kids like Jack. I'm so proud of her for not just sitting around and feeling sorry for herself, but actually going out and doing something to help others. I'm sure that you all have someone that you love who has autism, so I ask you all to continue supporting this amazing organization for that person. Thanks to all of you for supporting Autism Speaks. Good night.